During his decade in politics, former President Donald Trump has often enjoyed an edge over Democrats when it comes to handling the economy. Well, maybe not anymore. Joining us now is Yahoo Finance's own Rick Newman. Rick.
Hey, guys. Yeah, a lot of polls recently showing that Kamala Harris is really closing the gap with Donald Trump when you ask voters who they trust the most on the economy. So the Financial Times poll was one of the first to show this back in August, and it was kind of an outlier then. But they did it again, and in the latest version of that, Kamala Harris actually ahead of Trump on her handling of the economy by a couple of points. Morning Consult had a poll. Trump and Harris basically tied on the economy. There's a Quinnipiac poll in Pennsylvania, which is a crucial swing state, again, tied on the economy. And the University of Michigan, when they do those consumer confidence surveys, there's a ton of data behind that. And they also find that Kamala Harris is tied with Trump or maybe a little bit ahead of him. So, this used to be Trump's biggest advantage, I think it's fair to say, one of the big advantages anyway, over Biden. And since Biden dropped out in July, Kamala Harris seems to have completely neutralized the advantage Trump has on the economy. And Trump's second strong issue is immigration. And that's not working as well for him either, since the Biden administration clamped down on immigration. We have far fewer people coming across the border. It's not in the news, and people just aren't concerned about it somewhere. So it is still a super tight race, but this is a very intriguing development with more voters saying they trust Kamala Harris on the economy.
We had a really interesting conversation earlier with Jay Hatfield of InfraCap Partners, where he thinks that if there were to be a Republican sweep or a Democratic sweep, that would be a much bigger deal for economic policy, not because of tariffs or any of the other stuff, but just for the simple fact of a corporate tax cut becoming more likely in the event of a Republican sweep. We've talked, Rick, you and us, less about the congressional races and more about the presidential race. But obviously, the congressional stuff's a big deal. What's your latest thinking around that?
Yeah, there really are four potential outcomes here. It's that Kamala Harris wins with a divided government with Republicans partly in control, or she wins with a Democratic sweep and Democrats control, or the same with Trump. He wins with a Republican sweep or with a divided government. The least likely of those scenarios is that Harris wins with a Democratic sweep, and that's mainly because the Senate just looks basically out of reach for Democrats. It's a function of just they're defending a lot of tough seats. Even if Democrats get a sweep, this is something I think investors don't appreciate. That does not automatically mean that we're going to have a corporate tax rate. Joe Biden wants to raise the corporate tax rate. He campaigned on this in 2020 from 21%, where it is now, up to 28%. He couldn't do it. And Democrats controlled Congress for the first 2 years he was in office. I think it's going to be the same if Kamala Harris, if in that slow probability scenario that she wins a Democratic sweep, I think it's going to be such a narrow Democratic edge. I think they're still going to have a hard time raising the corporate tax rate. If you flip it around for Trump, the thing that worries people, economists, about Trump is the two big parts of his proposal he can do without Congress, and that's impose tariffs and start mass deportations. And those are the two things that economists really hate the most about Trump's policies. And those are the reasons you see a lot of forecasters. Goldman Sachs says the economy might do worse under Trump than under Harris. And that does seem to be breaking through a little bit to voters.